I want the world to know, like, my sister mattered. I want answers.
It is a case that has haunted the public for more than 13 years, and many feared that the Gilgo Beach murders may never be solved.
The officer located a body.
In a serial killer case that's baffled law enforcement and the public, 59-year-old Rex Hewerman pled not guilty.
Every story has a beginning. For the tragedy of Gilgo Beach, it began with a scream in the dark, swallowed by the wind and the marsh. It began with a young woman running for her life, her terror captured in a static-filled phone call to 911. That call would trigger a search, and that search would uncover not one lost soul, but many. For over a decade, the identity of the predator who hunted them was a ghost, a specter haunting the desolate stretches of Ocean Parkway on Long Island. This is a story of lives cut short, of families trapped in a limbo of grief, of an investigation mired in failure, and of the relentless pursuit that, 13 years later, finally placed a name and a face to the ghost.
Rex Hewerman is a demon that walks among us. A predator that ruined families.
This is the hunt for the Gilgo Beach serial killer. The date was May 1st, 2010. The time, just before 5 in the morning. In the quiet, gated community of Oak Beach, New York, a 23-year-old woman named Shannon Gilbert, who was working as an escort, found herself in a state of sheer panic.
State police?
Yeah, there's somebody after me.
I'm sorry?
There's somebody after me.
You're driving right now?
No, I'm inside the house. Where are you, Shannon?
For 22 agonizing minutes, Shannon's open phone line became an audio diary of terror. She fled the client's house, her voice cracking as she pounded on neighbors' doors, pleading for someone to let her in, screaming that these people were trying to kill her. The 911 dispatcher tried to calm her, to get a location. And then, the audio captured her final, fading screams, followed by the sounds of the marsh, reeds rustling, water, and then silence.
What's wrong? Huh? What happened? These people are starting to come in. Stop it, please. Please stop. Hello?
I wonder if she has a phone in her pocket.
Shannon Gilbert had vanished into the pre-dawn gloom. For 7 months, her disappearance was a local mystery. Police, volunteers, and her family searched the dense, swampy thickets along the south shore of Long Island. They were looking for one woman. What they would find was evidence of a nightmare on a scale no one had imagined. On December 11, 2010, a Suffolk County police officer and his cadaver dog, Blue, were conducting a grid search along Ocean Parkway near Gilgo Beach, several miles from Oak Beach. Just feet from the roadside, partially concealed by underbrush, Blue alerted. What they found was not Shannon Gilbert.
Everyone assumed it was Shannon Gilbert.
The remains were those of a young woman, wrapped in a burlap sack. She was identified as Melissa Barthelemy, 24, from Buffalo, New York, who had been missing since July 2009. The discovery triggered an expanded search. In the following days, 3 more sets of remains were found within a quarter-mile stretch. Maureen Brainerd Barnes, 25, a mother of 2 from Norwich, Connecticut, missing since July 2007. Megan Waterman, 22, a mother from Maine, missing since June 2010. Amber Costello, 27, from West Babylon, Long Island, missing since September 2010. The connections were undeniable and chilling. 4 women, all petite, all in their 20s. All had been involved in escort work, arranging meetings through online classifieds. 3 were found wrapped in burlap, a coarse fabric often used in landscaping and hunting. They had been discarded, lined up like grotesque markers along this remote parkway. The media dubbed them the Gilgo 4, and the hunt for a serial killer began in earnest.
It's really, really hard because I miss her so much.
Maureen Brainerd Barnes was the first to disappear. Her sister Missy last spoke to her as Maureen was at Penn Station in Manhattan, preparing to take a train back home to Connecticut.
She was very smart and very creative.
She liked being a mom?
She loved being a mom. I could hear the commotions from the train station. From the time that she called me, it was poof, she was gone.
Police later revealed a haunting clue. After Maureen vanished, her cell phone was used to make a call from Long Island. At the time, it was an isolated, confusing data point. Nearly 2 years later, Melissa Barthelemy vanished after leaving her apartment in the Bronx for a date in Manhattan. Her family's anguish was compounded by psychological torture.
How often do you think about Melissa?
Every single minute of the day. It just didn't happen to the girls. I mean, it just destroyed all of our families.
A week after she went missing, her 15-year-old sister Amanda began receiving phone calls from Melissa's own cell phone.
She answers, Melissa, where have you been? And this voice is saying, oh, this isn't Melissa. He was taunting Amanda, and he said, do you know what I did to your sister? I killed Melissa.
The killer was not just murdering, he was reveling in the suffering of the families. Police traced those taunting calls to the area of Midtown Manhattan. The predator was bold, cunning, and cruel. In the summer of 2010, the pattern seemed to shift geographically. Megan Waterman disappeared from a Holiday Inn Express on Long Island itself, just after meeting a client. She left behind a 3-year-old daughter, Liliana. Liliana, Megan's daughter, I would do anything to bring her back. She has a special place in my heart. No one can ever replace her.
Part of you is like missing. It's just like something's always off. I would do anything to bring her back, but I can't, and it just like frustrates me so bad.
What would you say to your mom if you could?
I would just want to tell her that, like, I love her. I just want her to know, like, she has a special place in my heart. No one can ever replace her.
Cell phone records later showed her phone had been in a specific Long Island community called Massapequa Park after she vanished. Then came Amber Costello in September 2010. She disappeared from the home she shared with a roommate, Dave Schaller, in West Babylon.
She used to say she was 4'11", but she wasn't. She was like 4'9", I mean, she was small.
Schaller would become the investigation's most crucial witness. He described Amber as a kind person caught in a cycle of addiction.
But as amazing as she was as tormented as she was.
Schaller told police about a violent incident a month prior. A client, a massive man he described as looking like an ogre, had become physically aggressive with Amber. Schaller had to fight the man to throw him out of the house.
I was out. She calls me, and it was like the guy, didn't want to take no for an answer and started grab-assing on her, and was basically, trying to pull her down to rape her. And there's a giant in my living room, basically. It was like Frankenstein. I just was emotionless, just, blank. So I was like, what you doing here? I was like, you gotta go.
He gave police a vital detail. The man drove a first-generation Chevrolet Avalanche, a distinctive pickup truck.
They had someone telling them that it was a Chevy Avalanche, that it was a 6'5" guy who looked like an ogre. And if you went on Google Maps and went up and down the street, you saw the car parked in the street.
On the night Amber vanished, Schaller said, a client offering an extraordinarily high fee of $1,500 pressured her to leave without her purse or phone.
This guy was so relentless. He called several times. He was on the phone with her for quite a while each time. I walked out the front door with her. She gave me a hug. She's like, I love you. And she left.
He watched her walk down the street to a waiting vehicle. It was the last time anyone saw Amber Costello alive. Dave Schaller had given the police a detailed description of a potential killer and his vehicle. It was a clue that would sit, largely dormant, for years. With 4 linked murders, a witness description, and cell phone data, the investigation into the Long Island serial killer had momentum in early 2011. Then, it stalled. For years, the case grew cold, becoming a painful open wound for the families and a frustrating mystery for the public. Why did it take so long? Critics point to a confluence of failures. First, the most straightforward lead may have been missed. Dave Schaller's description of the Chevy Avalanche was in the file. A simple cross-check of vehicle registrations for that model in the Massapequa Park area, a zone investigators would later term the box, could have produced a short list of suspects.
I gave them the guy's description down to his BDS eyes, his size, height, weight, everything, hair color, you name it. They had everything they needed. They had everything.
Second, and more damaging, was corruption at the highest level of the Suffolk County Police Department. The man who took control of the case was Chief of Department James Burke. In 2015, Burke was arrested by the FBI. He was later convicted of federal charges for beating a man who had stolen a duffel bag from his police vehicle, a bag containing pornography and sex toys, and then orchestrating a massive cover-up within his department to hide the assault.
He was morally, sexually corrupt. He was a pervert, and he was the one running the show.
Burke, who was alleged to have associations with sex workers himself, had actively resisted and blocked the FBI and other federal agencies from assisting in the Gilgo investigation. He maintained tight, insular control over a case that was going nowhere. Third, a troubling bias seemed to permeate the early investigation. The victims were sex workers. In a now infamous 2011 press conference, the then Suffolk County Police Commissioner appeared to minimize the threat to the general public.
From the 4 remains that were found and identified, the business that they were in, indicated that whoever was targeting these individuals was doing it because of their business. We don't have somebody running around Suffolk County with blood dripping from a knife. And I didn't want the public to think that Suffolk County was crime-ridden, which it's not. Very safe county.
The implied message was clear. The killer was targeting a specific high-risk group. Therefore, the wider community was safe. To many observers and advocates, this reflected a deeper unspoken lack of urgency because of who the victims were. For over a decade, the case languished. News reports marked anniversaries. Families held vigils. Then, in January 2022, new leadership arrived in Suffolk County. District Attorney Ray Tierney and newly appointed Police Commissioner Rodney Harrison made a decision they would break the logjam. They formed a new, multi-agency Gilgo Beach Homicide Investigation Task Force, vowing to follow the evidence without prejudice or past baggage.
In February of 2022, we formed the task force, and then a mere 6 weeks later, Rex Heuermann was identified for the first time.
After 13 years, how was this possible? The new team started with the basics. They re-examined the witness statements and the cellular data with fresh eyes. They focused on the clue of the Chevy Avalanche and honed in on a critical geographical footprint. Years earlier, the FBI had analyzed the burner phones used to contact the victims. They found that in 2010, most of those calls connected to cell towers within a very small, specific area of Massapequa Park, just a few blocks square. Investigators called this area the box. The task force's new directive was clear: find a large man who lived in the box and who owned a first-generation Chevrolet Avalanche.
Once we were able to attach the Avalanche inside of that Massapequa box, which then attached to Rex Heuermann, that was a moment where we said, okay, there's something here.
The name that emerged from motor vehicle and database searches was Rex Heuermann, a 59-year-old architect. He lived in a rundown brown shingled house on a corner lot in Massapequa Park. He owned his own architectural consulting firm with an office on Fifth Avenue in Midtown Manhattan. The geographical fit was eerily precise. His home was in the heart of the box. His office was just blocks from Penn Station, where Maureen Brainard Barnes made her last call, and from where the taunting calls to Melissa Barthelemy's sister originated. The map was drawing a circle around him. The task force launched a covert, intensive surveillance operation on Rex Heuermann. What they documented was a man living 2 starkly different lives. By day, he was Rex Heuermann, architect. He presented himself as an expert in navigating New York City's complex building codes, a consultant who could solve problems.
He liked to talk about himself, what he knew, I mean, not a narcissist, but a little bit of a, I know everything kind of guy.
Pompous?
Pompous.
He was also, openly, an avid hunter. But the task force uncovered his other, secret hunt. They watched him purchase and use numerous disposable burner phones. They linked these phones to anonymous email accounts with aliases like Thomas Hawk and John Springfield. Through subpoenas and digital forensics, they accessed his internet search history.
There's a lot of torture, porn, and depictions of women being abused, being raped, and being killed.
He was Googling the victims by name. He was searching for their family members, including one victim's young child.
Not only pictures of the victims, pictures of their relatives, their sisters, their children, and he was trying to locate those individuals.
He was cyber-stalking the investigation into his own crimes and the grieving families left in his wake. Perhaps most damningly, when investigators obtained Hoyerman's personal cell phone records from the time of the murders, they found his phone was in the same location as the burner phones when they were used to contact Melissa, Megan, and Amber. The odds of this being coincidence were astronomical. The circumstantial web was tightening, but they needed the thread that physically tied him to the bodies on the beach. In the spring of 2023, investigators saw their opportunity. Rex Hoyerman, under constant surveillance, was followed to Manhattan. He bought a pizza, ate it, and discarded the crust and the cardboard box in a public trash can. A surveillance team swiftly and discreetly secured it as evidence.
The pizza, which was, obviously very significant.
Forensic analysts extracted DNA from the pizza crust. This profile was compared to one of the oldest pieces of physical evidence in the case. A single light-colored male hair recovered years earlier from the burlap used to wrap Megan Waterman's body. It was a match. The statistics were overwhelming. The DNA profile is found in roughly 1 in 2,500 individuals.
That was a remarkable day. It was, the weekend, and, you get the report and you read it, and then you read it again, and then you read it a third time, and then you read it a fourth time, and then you start making calls.
They had their forensic link. The ghost now had DNA. On July 13, 2023, the task force moved. As Rex Hoyerman left his Manhattan architectural office, he was surrounded by law enforcement and placed in handcuffs. The following day, in a packed press conference, Suffolk County officials announced the breakthrough.
Rex Hoyerman is a demon that walks among us, a predator that ruined families.
He was charged with 3 counts of first-degree murder in the deaths of Melissa Barthelemy, Megan Waterman, and Amber Costello. He was named the prime suspect in the murder of Maureen Brainerd Barnes. After 13 years, a suspect was in custody.
What has my client told me? He told me he didn't do this. He's a man who's never been arrested before. He's maintained his innocence from the inception of this case. I doubt that any one of you for a moment have even contemplated the possibility that they have the wrong guy. So what we're going to do is we're going to defend this case in a courtroom.
The arrest exploded the quiet facade of Hoyerman's life. A 12-day search of his Massapequa Park home revealed a massive cache of nearly 300 firearms in a custom basement vault. The search itself left the house, where his wife Asa Ellerup and their 2 adult children still lived.
She had no idea any of this was going on. The allegations are shocking. Nobody wants to think that they've been living with and sleeping next to a serial killer for the past 25 years.
Asa Ellerup, who is battling breast and skin cancer, has since filed for divorce. Hairs found on 2 of the victims were a DNA match to her. Prosecutors believe this is transfer evidence, suggesting the killer brought the victims into contact with fibers from his home environment. She is not considered a suspect.
You don't believe that Rex Hoyerman's wife was involved in this in any way?
There's no evidence to indicate that, no.
But the arrest solved one mystery while opening others. The Gilgo Beach investigation eventually recovered a total of 11 sets of human remains along that stretch of Ocean Parkway. Only the Gilgo 4 are currently linked to Hoyerman. Who killed the others? Are there multiple killers? And did Hoyerman's alleged hunting grounds extend beyond Long Island? He owned property in Chester, South Carolina, and a timeshare in Las Vegas. Law enforcement in both jurisdictions has reopened cold cases of missing women.
Who's to say that there's not more bodies out there that we need to investigate?
In the end, beyond the forensics, the corruption, and the long-delayed arrest, this story is about 4 women. It is about the incalculable cost to their families of a 13-year wait for answers.
She loved her daughter so much. She was just very kind-hearted, you know. She made mistakes. Who doesn't? She didn't deserve this. Nobody deserves this.
She was a sweetheart. You know, the whole time that we knew her, she always, you know, bent over backwards to...
She had the biggest heart.
You have so many questions. Why? How? You know, did my sister cry? Did she beg?
Shannon Gilbert, whose 911 call set the search in motion, was found in the marsh in December 2011. Officially, her death is classified as an accidental drowning, a conclusion her family disputes. But her legacy is undeniable. Her disappearance forced a search that uncovered the terrible truth hidden on Gilgo Beach.
If my sister, you know, didn't make that 911 call, I don't think that these other women have been recovered either.
Today, Rex Hoyerman sits in a Suffolk County jail, awaiting trial. The wheels of justice, once frozen solid, have finally begun to turn. For the families of Maureen, Melissa, Megan, and Amber, there is now a long-awaited prospect of facing the accused in a courtroom, of seeking accountability. But the quiet, windswept expanse of Gilgo Beach holds a permanent memory, a stark reminder of lives stolen, of years lost to silence, and of the profound, enduring cost when justice is delayed. Justice came late, but it finally arrived. After years of silence, the case will be heard in open court. If you value real stories told with care, like the video and subscribe for more.